Hello ladies and gentlemen, Sigvolgrim here, and today we are going to do an Atlantean Armor Aquaman build guide. But before we get into that, I want to get to the way you guys voted it. So you guys voted it on a poll that I did on my channel. It won with 51% votes, and that's a lot. So here's is how the system works. Now that Atlantean Armor Aquaman has won, next time I'll do this poll, he will be not included in it, but all the other characters that lost will still be included in it. And on top of that, I have a notepad where I write all your build requests, and I'll keep filling the poll with your build requests, and the most requested character will be done in the next video, and then he will be removed from the list, but the other characters will remain. So if your character didn't succeed in this poll, then make sure you are ready to vote in the next one, because he might still get the chance to win there. And eventually I plan to do build guides for every single character in the game, so it will be made at some point anyway. So if you're new to this channel, I would really appreciate if you'd subscribe, and it would be a much better way for you to interact with me by voting in the polls that I make, and maybe the character you desire to be built will be built. And even if it's not built this time, maybe it will be voted and built next time. So with all that being said, let's get into the video. And for any further questions that you might have, feel free to leave them down below. I answer all of the questions as soon as I have time to, but if I don't further reply more than once. If you have a further question after you have asked the first, please make a separate comment, because it's much easier for me to access it than following a reply chain. So with all that being said, let's get into the video. So before we really get into this, we need to establish a little bit of a ground rules, explaining you how this is going to work. First of all, I'm going to do the build for level 60 gears, because level 60 gears, in my opinion, is going to be the best place to have your gears. If you want to upgrade them to level 70, it's up to you, but for Atlantean Armor Aquaman, you really shouldn't, and you really don't need to. And you're hearing this from a guy who has upgraded them to level 70 gears and regrets it. Like this, a little bit out of context, this was the first character on my first account, the first gold character I got, and I was so amazed by him, and literally every single resource that I had into the game I poured into this guy until I made it to the fullest, I guess. You can see that all his gears are level 70, all his abilities are upgraded, and that was a very poor way to spend my resources indeed, but I really enjoyed this character. And don't do as I did, don't upgrade his gears all the way to level 70, because it's not really worth it, and we'll get into that later. So the build will be for level 60 gears. And at the same time, the stats for this build will be calculated for a maxed out build. What do I understand by a maxed out build? 6-star character, level 70, level 60 gears, with high rolls on gears and epic talents. If you don't have this, then there is absolutely no problem. There's no reason for you to want to go straight for this, but you can watch this guide as guidelines towards perfection. So I will simply present you the peak performance of this build, and you will keep following that until you get there, or until you feel comfortable to stop and you think your Atlantean Armor Aquaman is strong enough. With all that being said, let's get into the first build, which will be the healer tank build. And this is a build that I do recommend to you, because usually I would recommend a damage dealer build on characters like this, but unfortunately Atlantean Armor Aquaman is not going to do well in raids. He's not going to do that well even in tier 6. So while he is an amazing character for Arena and Champions Arena, one of the best characters in the game in terms of Champions Arena, he simply sucks at raids, and that is a reality that we need to face. And because of the fact that he sucks at raids, we will not really need critical attack chance and critical attack damage, because of the fact that when it comes to Arena and Champions Arena, a lot of characters, when it comes to higher level play, will have critical resistance. And what does that mean? It means by only one single stat, which is critical resistance, they will resist two of your stats, which are critical attack chance and critical attack damage. And that is simply not efficient. And usually damage dealers are built with critical attack chance and critical attack damage, because they can use them to a very high extent in raids, and they are somewhat useful in the arena. But if this guy is not going to be used in raids, then then we have absolutely no reason to put critical attack chance and critical attack damage on him, because those stats will be more or less wasted. So we will focus on two things. First of all, getting him to a very high amount of defense and a very high amount of resistances, so he's going to survive for longer, getting him a little bit of health on the gears, and then investing everything else into attack, because he's got the passive Water Bearer, which will heal. You see this amount? This is 7,263. Now, if we move into gears, again, don't mind my build, simply don't do this. If we take one gear off and we go back into the abilities, you can see that it's a lower amount. Why? Because this amount is going to scale with attack. And that means the more attack you're going to have, the more you are going to heal yourself and your teammates. So that is why we are looking for attack, even though we don't have a critical attack chance and critical attack damage. So this build is going to look like the following. It's going to have 3 defense talents, 3 resistances talents, 5 health gear rolls, and 10 attack gear rolls. And for maxed out stats, yet again, level 60 gears, level 70 character, with high rolls and epic talents, you're going to end up with the following: 67% defense, 60 resistances, 32,528 health, and 4,972 attack. This is the build that I do mostly recommend, and this is going to do amazingly for you in Arena and Champions Arena. You are going to be tanky enough that you are not going to get one-shotted by anything, and you are going to have enough attack, so after you take damage and 100% not get one-shotted, you are going to be able to regenerate that rest of the health that was taken from you very fast. So this is basically the build. Don't really try to use decent rates, and I'll also include the damage part build next one, because if I just leave you with the healer tank build, even though I say it's the most recommended build, you are going to be like, wait, what, didn't you put a more damage oriented build? Oh, come on. Look, we're going to do that as well, but please, for the love of God, do the first build. And if you do the first build, then stick until later in the video, because I'll also talk about artifacts, abilities, and team comps. So if you don't want to hear the damage dealing build, then simply skip it. And yet again, I wholeheartedly recommend this first build that I did talk about. Okay, now getting into the damage dealing build, yet again this is going to be still useless in raids, unfortunately. Like with Shazam and the All Blades at level 9, he can one-shot stuff in tier 6, but so can almost every single character in the game, so that does not say much. So even with this build, he will be pretty useless in raids, so I don't really recommend you go for this build thinking it will do something in raids. But this is basically going to be a build with critical attack chance, critical attack damage, and as high as possible attack with the rest of the stats, those being the only 3 stats that we're going to be invested in. And we are going to do the following in order to do this build: 3 critical attack chance talents, 3 critical attack damage talents, 1 critical attack chance gear roll, 2 critical attack damage gear roll, and 12 attack gear rolls. And for maxed out stats, and by maxed out stats, yet again, I mean level 60 gears, level 70 character with high rolls and epic talents, you are going to end up with the following: 73% critical attack chance, 292 critical attack damage, 5,472 attack, 31% defense, and 20,028 health. So with all that in mind, please yet again, I advise you go for the first build. The only advantage of this build, as we have established, is not going to perform amazingly in raids, is the fact that if you don't get one-shotted in the arena, and you will get one-shotted quite often if you don't pick your opponents right while using this build, your fights are going to end up much faster. That is the only advantage. So with all that being said, let's move into the next section, which will be the what ability to upgrade. So getting into the ability upgrading section, first of all, of course, you should upgrade his passive, because his passive is going to be amazing. His passive is going to be one of the core things of this character. And when it comes to the other abilities, you got 2 options. First of all, the third option is to never upgrade the Trident Rail. I have upgraded it because, as I said, I was an Atlantean armor Aquaman fanboy, and I was like, it doesn't matter if he doesn't deal damage in raids, I will make him work. And guess what? You can't. And if you get this out of the equation, you are going to be left with two abilities, two great abilities. First one is going to be the Trident Rush, which has armor piercing, and second one is going to be Power of Neptune. And you're going to do the following. You more or less need both of them upgraded, but first of all, once you unlock him at the lower levels, until you are level 60 gears and you're fighting opponents that are higher than 1 million threat, you're going to only put points in Power of Neptune. Because Power of Neptune is going to deal hazard dot damage, and while armor piercing is going to bypass defense, and dot damage is going to be reduced by dot defense, until very high level of play, very few players will have dot resistance. So by putting points into this, you are kind of getting the same effect as with armor piercing, meaning you'll deal lots of damage and bypass the resistance that they don't have, basically. And at the same time you'll drain bars of power from them, and that makes them unable to use abilities on you. And at the same time you'll trigger your passive, Water Bearer, and that will heal you. This will simply put your opponent into a constant state of getting his power drained and you getting healed, and he will simply not be able to do anything. And you should start upgrading your third ability once you are going to see that your second ability is going to not work that well for you, and this is going to not deal damage at all. But if I was to take things back from zero, I don't think I would simply... I think I would simply not put points in Special 1 either, because Special 2 is going to be just so amazing overall. So I 100% recommend you max out Special 2 and maybe look at Special 1, and 100% avoid Special 3. Now let's get into the artifact section. In terms of the artifacts, on this account I have only 2 of them, and that's okay, because those are one of the 2 most optimal ones. So in terms of artifacts, you can use the All Blades on him, because his passive will simply mitigate the dot damage you take, so you basically have no downside. And the upside is that your healing is going to scale with attack, and the All Blades is going to give you more attack. If you are lacking the All Blades, you can use Claws of Horus, of course, because of that attack increase. Is going to be a less optimal option than the All Blades, but you can still use it if you don't have it. If you don't have any of them, you can kind of use the Amulet of Might and the Amulet of Metahuman for increased healing, but an attack-oriented item like the All Blaze and Clouds of Horror is going to give you more healing than the Metahuman Amulet, and on top of that more damage. So this is basically everything in terms of artifacts. Now let's get into team comps. In terms of the artifacts, on this account I have only 2 of them, and that's okay, because those are one of the 2 most optimal ones. So in terms of artifacts, you can use the All Blades on him, because his passive will simply mitigate the dot damage you take, so you basically have no downside. And the upside is that your healing is going to scale with attack, and the All Blades is going to give you more attack. If you are lacking the All Blades, you can use Claws of Horus, of course, because of that attack increase. Is going to be a less optimal option than the All Blades, but you can still use it if you don't have it. If you don't have any of them, you can kind of use the Amulet of Might and the Amulet of Metahuman for increased healing, but an attack-oriented item like the All Blaze and Clouds of Horror is going to give you more healing than the Metahuman Amulet, and on top of that more damage. So this is basically everything in terms of artifacts. Now let's get into team comps. So in terms of team comps, you are going to need the following. First of all, you of course have the option to go for a power reduction character like Power Girl over here, or Dr. Fate over here, and other than that you can of course go for Shazam. Where are you, boy? I think I got his gears off to use him against the Horrific Scarecrow. Where's Shazam? Oh, here, Shazam. You can also use Shazam as well, and other than this you can use a little bit less optimal support characters, like you can use Bane, you can use stuff like Emerald Green Lantern in order for you to receive buffs on tagging. You can also use Horrific Scarecrow, you can use Spit for the Flash, you can use very many things, and other than that you can simply use him in any team in the game that you wish to have a healer on. You can simply use him as a healing support in Champions Arena or Arena. This is a character that can simply work in any single team that does not require 3 specific members to work. So a team that requires 3 specific members to work would be the League of Anarchy team or something like that, but if you're not using a team that requires a specific energy, then he can be fit in any single team in the entire game. Okay, so this was everything for this one. This was the build for Atlantean Armor Aquaman. Please do the first one and don't do the second one. Thank you very much for watching. For any further questions, please feel free to comment down below. Also, you can leave in the comments the names of the characters that you want me to do build guides on, and I will include them in the poll for the next build guide. And the poll for the next build guide from now on will be started like 1 hour after the build video is released. And a thing to clarify, the builds of characters that are in the arena seasons don't apply to that rule. The builds of the character that are in the arena season are up for me to make whenever I want to make them. So I will do the builds that I put on the polls whenever I got time to do them, and I will do the builds for the characters in the arena whenever I think it is beneficial for me to do them. So with all that being said, like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, subscribe for more content like this and to participate in the polls, and thank you very much for watching.